got two more questions, and then we really have to wrap up. One is for Charlie, and one's for Sylvie. Charlie I mentioned when I was introducing you that you last year you put out an album of Dylan covers. Is Bob aware of the album, and when's the last time you talked to him?
I spoke with him, I think, about right about the time the album came out. I wanted to talk to him, and some of my people got in touch with his office, and he called me. We talked for about 15 minutes. I told him, I said, I've done an album of your songs, and how are you? He said, I got 19 grandchildren now. He didn't say it like that. I'm just kidding. But it was a very congenial talk, and I haven't had any contact with him since. I don't know what he thinks about the album. I haven't heard back from him on it, but we did send it to him. So, but the whole criteria for doing this album was I did not want to do any of it like it had ever been done before. I didn't want to do. We did country pie. I played guitar on it before. I played fiddle this time. I played. We just tried to get songs that would work for us, that sounded like songs that we had written or somebody had presented to us. They were obviously Bob Dylan songs, but we wanted to record them in our own way. So that was the criteria for the 10 songs that we did here. I tried to do Lay Lady Lay, but I could not get away from that haunting thing that Pete did on that steel guitar. I couldn't make it do it any different. So we just passed it over and went on to something else. But we ran into songs that we couldn't get away from the way they'd been done before. But everything on the album sounds like a CDB tune written by Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's pretty good. Maybe I can write some more for me.
and Sylvie, I mentioned in your introduction that you've got to spend, a week with Johnny Cash shortly before he died, doing extensive interviews with him. At any point during those talks, did he talk about Bob Johnston or Bob Dylan and kind of reflect on during this period of his career?
I'll answer that, and there's something else I wanted to bring up about Bob too that I thought was an important thing to bring up. So I'll answer the Cash thing first. Yeah. I should say that this was 6 weeks before Johnny died, and I was at his house in Hendersonville talking to him. We were going to do 2 books, one for the box set Unearthed and a bigger book, and then it was a bit too depressing because he passed away to do the big book. So it's just the posthumous thing. But the people that he reminisced about most were Sam Phillips and Bob Johnston. And because at that time he was madly in love with Rick Rubin, they'd done albums together for 10 years, and it was the strangest relationship. I mean, as a Jewish guy from the East Coast, half your age, and, I used to tell both of them they could do sort of shampoo ads of them running slow motion through the cornfields with, they were just so in love with each other. But he'd say, Rick reminds me of Sam Phillips, or he reminds me of Bob Johnston because he just doesn't give a shit, And that was his feeling on Bob. But what I'd wanted to bring up about Bob that I thought was really important was what I hadn't realized was how much Bob, besides being the maverick and letting people do what they wanted to do and enabling a lot of this music, fought for these musicians. Because a lot of the interviews and stuff that we did over the years, I've got like 9 huge transcripts with Bob, he'd talk about how he would have a fight getting something out. And so the Cash Dylan sessions, for example, to even get that one song, Girl from the North Country on Nashville Skyline, to get it past the Suits, he had to put a completely different name on it and not mention that Johnny Cash was playing on it. So these were the kind of games that were going on. And when Johnny Cash went to him and talked about the prison albums and making them, he said, "You're going to say no. Everybody else sitting in that chair at Nashville, Columbia has said no to me." And Bob said, "I just picked up the phone and called, said, which prison do you want?" and called up the officer and got it done. So he was somebody who kind of had to fight and got into that fighting spirit. I notice all of my transcripts, it sounds like he's about to leap up from the chair and strangle you half the time, just to reenact the fights that he's had with people. So that side, battling Bob as well, I think is important to know. It just wasn't bopping around with his headphones on in the studio.
Yeah, that's great. That's full circle, Bob Johnston. All right. Everybody, please thank Ryan Cornelius, Sylvie Simmons, Charlie Daniels, and Bob Wilson. Thank you so much for being here today.
if you're traveling